Okay, so it seems that we are live. That's good. Okay. Yeah, we're actually gonna stop at 12 today, so we're gonna get right into it. I just wanted to get a video out before the next day because I haven't uploaded in a day. I just wanted to have a video out at least because I haven't had one out. We're gonna pick back up at in a couple of hours, in fact, but I just wanted to have a video out in general just so I can have one. So let's get.
Hey, it's you, bro. I hope if you find in demand right now, you'll want to learn CSS and JavaScript along with HTML, though. The disadvantages of HTML. HTML by itself is ugly. There's no style. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's bro here. Hope you're doing. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Property works in CSS. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's bro here. Hope you're doing well. And in this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys all about basic animations in CSS. So let's get into it. Viewed in HTML. CSS. Hey, it's your bro. I hope you're doing well. And in this video, I'm going to teach you guys all about CSS. So let's get into it. So what is CSS? CSS is an acronym for Cascading Style Sheets. The purpose of CSS is to customize the elements of a web page to be displayed. And we can even use CSS to style multiple pages at once by linking separate, independent HTML files to a single style sheet. So, I've described our house analogy for building. Alright, what's going on, everybody? It's your bro. Hope you're doing this. Hey, everyone. I'm going to try and explain everything I can set the type attribute to whatever you need. Let's say we need some text from a user like a first name. Within our form, there is a text box where we can enter in some user information. So we should probably let the user know what we want them to type in. I will precede this input element with a label. Let's say first name, and a user can type in their first name. Now, it is considered good practice to fill out a for attribute within click on this label. This will select my input box. It's also helpful for people that are using screen readers so that they can easily navigate your form. There is also a name attribute. When we submit this data, what sort of name do we want to give that data? Think of it like a variable. I will also name this fname as well. Within the input element, there is a placeholder to display some default text to a user by setting the placeholder attribute equal to some text, like SpongeBob. So if I was to click within this input field and type something, that will get rid of my placeholder. Let's create an input field for a last name, and really we can just copy this and make a few changes to it. So copy both the label and the input element. Let's change this from first name to last name. Change for as well to lname. ID will be lname, and let's make name lname as well. And the placeholder, how about square pants? These labels and input elements will appear on the same line. To separate them and treat them as block level elements, I will add each of these pairs to their own div element. Perhaps I'll add a line break as well. Okay, now with forms, there are built-in buttons too. We will set the input type equal to reset. So if I were to type in some text and click reset, that will reset whatever's within my form. And there is a submit button as well. I will set the type equal to submit. So currently our data doesn't have any place to go to. So if I were to click the submit button, this data is not going to go anywhere. So if I need to send this data to a page, I will list that page within the action attribute of my opening form element. So we'll need the help of a dynamic programming language. I will list that page within the action button. We'll set the input type equal to reset. So if I were to type in some text and click reset, that will reset whatever's within my form. And there is a submit button as well. I will set the type equal to submit. So currently our data doesn't have any place to go to. So if I were to click the submit button, this data is not going to go anywhere. So if I need to send this data to a page, I will list that page within the action attribute of my opening form element. So we'll need the help of a dynamic programming language. PHP, for example, we're not going to focus on functionality in this video, but rather the structure of a form. So if I need to send this to a PHP page, I would list that PHP page within the action attribute. There is also an associated method attribute. Two common values are get and post. Get is considered insecure. It's going to append your data to the URL of your web page. So for example, if I set the method to get, type in some information, and click submit, it's going to append my data to the end of my URL. So it's going to add a question mark, then all of my data. It's some secure information like a password. Do not use get. I would say that this is useful for things like search boxes if a user needs to navigate your web page for maybe some sort of keyword. So it's better to use post to submit some secure information. But this isn't going to do anything, obviously, because we do not have a server set up. Now, there is a required Boolean attribute you can add. If somebody needs to submit some information, they are required to fill out any input elements that come this field. Alright, I'm going to go kind of quick through these next input elements just because I think we have the hang of the general context of input elements. So next we have password fields. You set the type equal to password. So if somebody types in some characters, they will be hidden. If you need to set a max size of your password, there is a max length attribute. Let's set this to maybe 12, so we can type in no more than 12 characters for a password. And you can also add that required Boolean attribute too. For an email element, set the type equal to email. In order to submit an email, we need an character within our email. Otherwise, we cannot submit this information. And perhaps I'll add a placeholder as well. Placeholder equals spants@gmail.com. So there is our placeholder. For a telephone number, you're going to set the type equal to town. And I do have a placeholder as well. If you need the user to type in a date, like a birthday, there is a type date, which includes an in-tracker calendar to select a date. A user can type in a number if you set the type equal to number. Let's say that the user is buying something from a store. There are some arrows where they can increase or decrease the quantity. Well, we should probably place some limits. They can type in basically whatever number they want. They want -1 billion items. So we can set the min and the max. I'll set the min equal to 0 and the max equal to, what about 99? And you can also set a default value too. I'll set the default value equal to 1. Next, we have radio buttons. With radio buttons, we can only select one radio button from any one group. Perhaps we'll have the user select a title. Are they a Mr., a Miss, or a Doctor? So I'm going to create a pair of labels and input for each option that we have. Miss and PhD. Okay, I will set the input type equal to radio, and then do that with each of these pairs. So we can select more than one because these are all not within the same group. To set them all within the same group, we will all have them have the same magic name. Let's say that the name will be title. So therefore, we can only select one now since they're all within the same group. That's kind of the idea behind radio buttons. You can only select one, and we will set an associated value of, let's say, Mr. for the first value, Mrs. for the second, and Doctor for the last one. Then I'm just going to precede all of these with a separate label. Let's say title. And I will set the for attribute equal to title. And within each of these radio button labels, when I click on one of these labels, I also want to be able to select one of these radio buttons. So I will set the for attribute equal to a unique ID. So let's say Mr. The ID will be Mr. And repeat the same steps. Okay, so when we click on these labels, we should be able to select our radio buttons. Nice. With drop-down menus, instead of a type, we are going to use a pair of select tags. So there's an opening select tag and a closing select tag, and we list individual options within the select element. We'll give our user 3 options from this drop-down menu. They can pay with a Visa, a MasterCard, or a gift card. And I will give each of these a value. Okay, we now have a payment field, and the user user can select an option from this drop-down menu. And the last input type I will explain in this video is the checkbox type. So let's say we have a subscribe button, and you can go ahead and smash that subscribe button. So just set the type equal to checkbox for, well, a checkbox. Well, yeah, everybody, that's how to create an HTML form. There's still some more advanced input types we did not cover, but these are the very basics, I would say. If you found this video helpful, please remember to smash that like button, leave a random comment down below, and subscribe if you'd like to become a fellow pro.
Hey there, my gorgeous friends on the internet. In this episode, Santa came early. He's on the roof right now. Damn it, Santa, get off the roof. I don't have cookies nor JavaScript. So, recently I released my creative course on my own platform developed by ed.com, and I know a lot of people could not join or couldn't afford it, so the least I can do for Christmas holidays is give you the first around 2 hours or 2-3 chapters for free here on YouTube. So what we're going to do is take a look at the HTML, everything you need to know about HTML, and everything you need to know about CSS. So hope you enjoy it. Make sure to let me know what you think. And from next week on, we're going to go back to our normal routine, just doing fun, creative stuff on this channel. So thank you again very much for everybody who purchased the course. I want to give you a big shout out. And the first day, 350 people joined, awesome, gorgeous friends. So it's unbelievable. I did not expect this much support. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. All right, let's get going. Enjoy. Hello there, and thank you for joining the course. All right, so we're going to take this kind of easy at first. We're going to just kind of take a look at the basics of things. If you feel like you're very comfortable with HTML and CSS, you can skip ahead towards the mobile responsiveness section. That's where you're probably going to get most of the information. And building out the actual projects is going to give you a bit of practice and everything. So if you are already experienced, then you can go all the way to that section. But I still recommend kind of skimming through all of these sections because maybe you might find specific things in HTML and CSS that you might not know. And if you're a beginner, obviously we're going to start right here, and it's going to be very exciting. And let's start with magic trick. Is this going to be good? Hopefully you didn't catch it how I did it. If you did, then exciting. And let's start with magic trick. Is this going to be good? Hopefully you didn't catch it. And if you're a beginner, obviously we're going to start right here, and it's going to be very exciting. And let's start with magic trick. Is this going to be good? Hopefully you didn't catch it how I did it. If you did, then congratulations, you passed the first test. Okay, let's get going. This is going to be okay. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is install Visual Studio Code, which basically is just a text editor that allows us to write code, and it has all of these cool extensions, and it just makes it very easy for us to write code. Now, there are different alternatives out there, like Atom and Sublime Text, but Visual Studio Code is just so lovely to use. So that's what we're going to be using for this one. But after a while, if you want, you can feel free to switch to anything else. But for now, we're going to use Visual Studio Code. So just go to your Google and write Visual Studio. It should be, let's take a look. Make sure you write Visual Studio Code because there's another one specifically for .NET to write C# code, and we don't want that. We want Visual Studio Code, so make sure you use that one. Alright, I'm on Windows, so you can get Windows, but if you're on Mac, on Linux, this is pretty much available everywhere for you. So let's get the stable build, hit download, we're going to get the file here, we're going to keep it, let's open this up, we're going to hit accept on this page, hit next, you can leave the default, hit next, alright, next again, we can also create a desktop icon here, and make sure you also have add to path here checked. Okay, then we're going to do next, and HTML elements that we use. So we did the page 1, which is heading 1. Now there are a few others. There's H2 as well. And let's say hello there. As you can see, this is going to be smaller. And it goes all the way to 6. So we need forms, and we will actually be using one form on our first project where we're going to submit some user data and we're going to receive an email. So forms that are typically used, again, to collect some user data. So you probably know the kinds of inputs. So the first one that's going to be probably the most common one is going to be called input type text. So if I just type input and hit tab, obviously it's going to give me the most default one, and this one's called text. So if I hit save, I can type just normal text in here, alright? So now it's very hard to see what this does because it's unclear. It doesn't have like a title or maybe something to label to it. So we can actually add a label to it. So if I go up here, I can type label, and I'm going to hit tab, and as you can see, it gives me 4. Alright, so for what? Well, I need it for this input. I need to describe where this label belongs to, and it's to this input. So to give an identifier to this, you just add an ID, and I can set an ID. As you can see, it's a unique identifier, and it's also heavily used to basically to modify in CSS or to identify it in JavaScript. If you want, you can use it there as well. So if I give an ID here, we can access this input basically through our CSS and JavaScript. And in here, I'm just going to give it an ID of name, all right, or user. Let's call it user. I want to have user. So I can say the label is for user, and I can add a descriptive text that you see on like every website is in this label here. I can say username. And this doesn't have to match. The text that we add here can be anything that we want. But as you can see here, I kind of keep it simplified and easy. But here I can use the full name. I can use username as well. But I like to keep it very simple. Everything lowercase, just user. Okay? So as you can see now we have username and we have our label and our input. So super cool. Now besides this, the label is very useful because let me show you something. If I add another input here, I'm actually going to change this to type email, right? Now check this out. If I add another label here, and I'm not going to name this in any way, I'm just going to say email, all right? Well, what's the difference between this and this? Like these two and these two. Like what does it actually help me with by adding for user here and binding it to this input? What's the difference? Well, check this out. If I'm going to click on email here on this label, it doesn't really do anything. I have to click in the input here. However, if you specify on the label that, hey, this is specifically for this ID of user, this input, well, if I click on the label now, it automatically jumps me into the input tab here. So boom, as you can see, it activates the input so I can start writing. So this makes it a bit more accessible and a bit more easy for the users to write the inputs. So lastly, what I want to show you, I also want to show you the difference between text and email here is at the end, if I just add a simple button here, and I'm going to say submit, like this, and take a look. I can add a attribute of type submit, and all this is going to do is it's going to submit all the information that we have in the form. So if I hit save, and I'm going to just type something, and I'm going to add an email, all right, just a random old email that I have, I'm going to hit submit, boom, the form gets submitted. Now, it doesn't get submitted anywhere, unfortunately, because you don't have an action here, but it works. That's all it matters. So text and type email. I can add any text I want here. However, here, if I don't add an email, as you can see, we get an error here saying, please include an ad in the email address. So it doesn't actually submit the form. So HTML actually does some validation for us if we specifically specify that, hey, this is an email, and we only want to have an email. So the form doesn't get submitted anymore until this is actually an email. So that's super awesome. Now, let's go up here to the form, and I'm actually going to add an action. Okay? And I want to show you that we can also use action to navigate to another page. So I made a contact.html here. It's super simple. There's nothing really in it. And I can add a slash contact HTML. Hit save. Now take a look. Whenever I submit something, it's going to jump me over to that page. So you can also do that if you want. And this, by the way, also works with an anchor tag. So if I add an anchor tag here, and I'm going to say link me to another page, saw that we could have used this with links, but we can also navigate to another HTML page. So I'm going to say contact.html, and I'm also going to add the target of blank. So hit save and take a look. Even this link tag can also navigate to another HTML. So I thought I'd show you that as well. However, the way using action here is we are actually going to use a third-party website, and we're going to submit the information there for them. Or later on, when you're going to work with JavaScript and Node.js, or maybe another programming language, you're going to submit this one to a specific URL. So you get that in your backend server or somewhere else. So for now, this is kind of useless for us. So we covered this. We covered labels, we covered inputs, and we covered the ID, which is, again, just used specifically so we can access this specific input in our CSS or JavaScript. Okay? And lastly, what I want to show you is something called name. So on the input here, you can also add name called user. So I'm going to use the same as the ID here. And for the input type email, I'm also going to give a name of email. The reason I am doing this form are the ones that have a name on it. So make sure you put the name of all the inputs that you want to submit in the form. And just to kind of quickly show you what gets submitted, if I type here ed and just provide a random email, and if I submit, you're going to see up here in the URL, we're going to get user equals ed. And this is basically the name. So user equals, and this is the value that we gave it. And then we have email, so the name email equals admission@gmail.com. Okay, next up, I want to take a look at a drop down where you can select different values. If you drop down, all you have to do is say select and hit tab. And now this also gives you a name and an ID. I'm just going to call this products, right? And I'm going to give it an ID of product. So if we ever want to select this in our CSS or JavaScript, we also have a unique identifier. And in here, if we save this, we just have this simple drop down here, but it doesn't really do anything. So to add options, well, we just write option. That's a HTML element that we can use. And in here, I can give a name to my product. Maybe I have a MacBook, all right? So there we go. We have a MacBook. I can duplicate this, bring this down, and call this an iPhone. What's value does is this is actually the thing that gets submitted in the form, right? This is kind of the text that we want to give it. This can just be whatever we want. But when we hit submit, the thing that's in the value is going to be submitted in the form. So I can see MacBook 2018, this for the value. And I can say iPhone 11, like this. So when we actually add our information here, I select MacBook, hit submit. If we expand this, you're going to see that products is going to be equal to MacBook 2018. So the actual value that's in here is the thing that's going to be sent to wherever we are sending it to. Okay, but what if we want to submit a message? Having the small input is not that great, because if we write a lot, we cannot really see anything else that we write, or that we previously wrote, right? And I cannot add a new line. If I hit enter, then the form is getting submitted. So how can we get around that? Well, we have another element called a text area. So I'm going to just say text, and as you can see, there's there. I'm going to hit enter, and oh my goodness, what's going on here? I'm going to give it a message. I'm going to give it a message ID as well. But we have this calls and rows. So if we hit save, as you can see, now we have a multi-line element here that we can write a lot of text to. And we can also expand this if we want, like that. Take a look. That's pretty cool. There are a few attributes that we can add to these inputs, and I want to show you a quick few ones that might be useful. If we go up here to the input tag, we can also limit the number of text that we can add here. So let's go here, and all we're going to do is type in max length, like this. And I can set a max length equal to, I can see 12 or 16 maybe. I don't want more than 16. I'm going to do something low, like 8 for now, just so I can show you. And now, if I have something superbly long, I cannot is that, well, we know name. We our information 2018. This for the value. I can say iPhone 11 like this. So when we actually add our information here, I select MacBook, hit submit. If we expand this, you're going to see that product is going to be equal to MacBook 2018. So the actual value that's in here is the thing that's going to be sent to wherever we are sending it to. Okay, but what if we want to submit a message? Having the small input is not that great, because if we write a lot, we cannot really see anything else that we write or that we previously wrote, right? And I cannot add a new line. If I hit enter, then we add another element called the text area. So I'm going to just say text, and as you can see it appears there, I'm going to hit enter, and oh my goodness, what's going on here? Well, we know name, so I'm going to give it a message. I'm going to give it a message ID as well, but we have this calls and rows. So if we hit save, as you can see, now we have a line element here that we can write a lot of text here. And we can also expand this if we want, like that. Look, that's pretty cool. There are a few attributes that we can add as inputs, and I want to show you a quick few ones that might be useful. If we go up here to the input tag, we can also limit the number of text that we can add here. So
Yeah, so we're gonna stop right here. Pick up probably around 3 or 4, probably. I'm not sure. Let's put stuff at exactly 5. So we're just gonna keep on going. Good and stuff, Keep updated with you guys. So yeah. And my computer's almost dead, as you see.